God has just done some things in my life where it's just been that moment that I had to go back to school for photography. It was just like, yep. And even though it was scary and stepping out is hard, that thing in my soul and my spirit was just so sure that was where I needed to be. And
what's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Lift Love, crochet, we out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome. Today's episode is brought to you by Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. Shout out to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina for allowing us to film our episodes here. Check out all the links in the description, all their socials are there. Show them some support. But enough about me, enough about our sponsors. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. But we have an awesome podcast for you guys. A great guest, someone who I got to meet at a chamber event. And she is a community leader, a mother, a wife, just an all-around awesome human being. It is Mabyn Ludke, now Mabyn Henderson, but with Mabyn Ludke. Oh my, see, I told you I was going to butcher it. Say it one more time for me.
Mabyn Ludke Photography.
Mabyn Ludke Photography. I'm awful with names. I'm so sorry. But welcome to the Lifting Up Podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Glad to be here.
So let's go way back. Where does this journey begin for you? Because you do so much.
Yeah, okay. So the genesis, I guess you could say, was I was a musical theater major in college. Oh. And during that time, I did photography on the side. So I had a whole bunch of people, and you had to pay I don't know, anywhere from $500 to $1,000 for headshots, and we be poor college kids, right? So I picked up a camera, and I'd already...
$500 for a headshot?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's chump change.
Wait, as a group or individual?
Individually. Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry. That's...
Well, we'll get
insane.
into what value is, though. So everybody has different value, right?
Sure.
But back then, we'd be poor college students. And I had been playing with photography as a hobby at that point. So I started taking photos for my friends and doing headshots for my friends in musical theater. And it kind of turned into this thing where my friends were like, you could actually do something with this. And I was like, all right, well, maybe it'll be my side job. Instead of waiting tables, I'll do this. But God moves in really funny ways sometimes. And my senior year of college, I completely fell out of love with musical theater.
Wow.
And
was there a story there for musical theater and why you wanted to do that specifically?
It was something I always wanted to do ever since I was a little girl. It
gotcha.
was I just loved acting. I loved all of it. And it was now looking back on it, it was a way for me to escape from myself, which I didn't realize at the time. But knowing how I grew up and just, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and it was just my way of escape and not having to be me, and I could pretend to be somebody else for a little while. And
I mean, real quick, that's such a unique point to bring to acting. It's you get to play a character, and for an hour, for 30 minutes, however long it takes to perform, you get to not be yourself. You don't have to think about the things at home, the things that happened at school. You get to kind of just 3, 2, 1, boom. You're someone else for that little bit.
And let's be honest, theater kids are fun, right?
100%.
Theater kids were quirky and weird, and that was me, right? And so it was a place that I fit in finally too. So I loved it, and I ended up going to school for it. And it's a big part of my why, which I didn't realize really until I got into what I do now. And because I was bullied and I didn't feel valued as much as a kid. And
then that community brought you in, and you felt seen.
Yeah, I did for the first time, but as drama kids go, we're very dramatic, and we have a lot of drama in our lives. And God was leading me to Him this whole time too. I wasn't I grew up in the church, but I wasn't saved at that point. And so by my senior year of college, flash forward to that, some big events had happened in my life that really made me kind of go, do I want to keep doing this?
Yeah.
And I got saved my senior year of college.
That's awesome.
And that's when I was like, all right, Lord, like, what do you want from me? Like, where do you want me to go with all of this? Do I stay in this? Do I move? And it was the first time I distinctly remember hearing the Lord speak to me. And that was like, you need to go back to school for photography after this.
So, and then you went right into, you changed and went right into...
Well, I graduated. So at that point, it was my senior year. So I finished out my degree. And so I finished out my degree and I went back. I started at a community college and they had a great photography program there. And I went there for a semester learning about photography and the mechanics of it. And it was there that I got plugged into this amazing church and I met all these incredible friends that, like, they're lifelong friends. I love them to death and I had an incredible time. And that, through that, like, that really launched my photography career. Like, I found a company to start working for. I actually started in weddings, and I shot weddings and families and maternities and all of the things, probably until about 3.5 years ago.
Wow.
That was my career. It was 15 years almost of doing weddings and families and babies, and I loved it. I lived off of it. It was my passion, my everything.
How scary was that jump?
Not as scary as you would think. I think the scariest part, or the hardest part, I would say, it wasn't even scary, is I was going through a lot of emotional turmoil from my senior year through that summer.
Gotcha.
And the hardest part was sticking through that and trusting that the voice that I was hearing, that still small voice, was the Lord, and that his plan was going to work out. Because this was my first time really trusting that, right? And not in my own understanding. Mm-hmm. And so... watching it, sorry, there was literally a gnat right in front of my face. So watching, like, now looking back and having a hindsight, like, taking that step of faith and going back to school for photography and watching his plan unfold right before my eyes. And it was one of those things that, you know, he doesn't always do anymore because I've been a Christian for a little while now. But just the, like, step after step after step, like, here, I'm reaffirming, you know, what I told you. And it was like, I made amazing friends that I had never made before. Like, even better than that community before, this community was showing me true love. Like, this church that I became part of, like, I had never been part of a community like that before. And my passion for photography, and through those friendships that I was forging, people were getting married and I was doing their weddings, and I found a company to work for, and it was just like, it took off like wildfire. Like, within my first 4 years of business, I was making $80,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And this was how long ago?
This was back in, I want to say, probably 2010. 2011, somewhere in there.
Were you, at that point, working yourself to the ground, you would say?
Yes. And that becomes a pivotal point in my story, too. But, so I was, and then this is all taking place in upstate New York, where I grew up.
Whoa, so you haven't even moved down here yet.
No,
You're doing this.
Here.
Oh, what part of New York?
Syracuse, New York.
Oh, I'm from Long Island.
Okay.
Oh, very far away,
yeah,
but
same state.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from the upstate New York area, Cortland,
and before we get to the pivotal burnout point, was there, like, when was it like, oh, this is like a career? Like, when, like, was there a moment or a story where, like, maybe somebody was like, oh yeah, I'll do this much, this price, and you were like, whoa, I've never charged that much before? Do you have like an aha moment of, like, it went from like a part-time side hustle to like a full-time career?
Yeah, I would say I came to a point pretty quickly within the first 3 years. So I was working for another company, and let me rewind a little bit. So during this whole transition of, like, trusting the Lord to go into photography, and then when I started to go into it, I had some friends who were very pivotal to my being saved. Like, they were friends since I was a kid. They were camp counselors of mine. They came back into my life right around the time that I was having all of this doubt and all of this turmoil, and they led me to Christ.
Awesome.
And I remember I was in their home asking God what I was supposed to do, and I remember the photography part, but I also remember him telling me, show my people how beautiful they are. And that has stuck with me my entire career. Like, that is the deepest part of my why, is like, God wants me to show his people how beautiful they are. And so fast forward, remind me of the question. Oh, the pivotal moment.
Yeah.
So I have been working for a company for 3 years.
So real quick, just to clarify, you were working for a company doing photography.
Yes.
And doing your like side gigs on the side.
So
or?
I was daycare worker. I sold tires. I did all sorts of other jobs until it became a full-time gig. Worked at summer camps, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was 3 years in, and again, at this point, it's a side hustle because I'm associate photographer for another company, and they can't pay me enough to be full-time. And that company started to dissolve. They had made some poor decisions, and there was some drama, and it was ending. And I had a decision to make. I can either take the leap and go into this full-time for myself, or I could, just find another job and, hope that it would take off. And it was one of those moments where the Lord was just like, you need to step out, you need to leap.
Yeah.
And I did. And I made more money that year than I had in the last 3 years, and I was fully booked a year out, and it was crazy.
In that moment, what are you feeling? What is going through your head? Like there must have been
it was a while ago.
Like, take us through that. I think it's so important because one of the obviously everything revolves around money. We all have to make money, right? You have a service that you provide, but at the end of the day, you got a family to feed.
Yeah.
You got a roof to put over your head, all this stuff. But when you finally make that money on your own, when you're doing it for yourself, that feeling, that empowerment is so strong. Take us back to what you can remember of how you were feeling, like how just excited were you?
I mean, I was thrilled because, God is showing himself faithful through all of this. And, I can pay my bills. I can pay almost everything from, what I'm bringing in. But more so it was proving to myself that I could do it. Because, I love my family very much, but they're very practical. And we all have hobbies on the side that we do, but we always had a staple job, right?
Yeah.
And my entire life, I've always wanted to do something creative. And I was always told that, oh, you should have a backup job, you should have this, you should go to school for this instead of this, you should do that and the other thing, and play it safe, right? Play the safe game.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I had this thing in me that I had to prove, and it was just very validating, but it quickly became, I guess, a crux as well, because,
Really?
And again, this is all, hindsight is 50-50, and I was in my 20s when I'm building this business, and the thrill of it, and I'm single, and I can work as hard as I want, and play as hard as I want, and, fast forward a few years, and 2013, and I am so busy that I don't know which way is up. I'm hardly getting to see my friends and family. I'm missing birthdays and family reunions and things like that because I've overcommitted myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to scale. I didn't know how to reach out for help. I didn't know how to outsource at this point, right?
Yeah.
Even though people are telling me to do these things, it feels like, oh, I'm going to lose money if I do that. So I'm holding on to this thing, this photography career, so tightly that it's really becoming more of an idol in my life than what God wants it to become.
Yeah.
And
this was around what time?
I would say 2013, I would say, is where I'm at.
So
at that
you
point.
were like burned out
Yeah.
at this point.
I was feeling very burnt out, and I remember I was in church, and I had someone tell me that, this year's going to be a big year for you. God's going to do some big things. He's going to jack up your world. And I was like, all right, whatever. And that was the year that I went all over the country shooting weddings. I was in California, Boston, the Virgin Islands. I was everywhere. And it was incredible. And if you remember earlier in the story, I talked about the friends who helped me get saved. And those friends had moved to North Carolina, to Kernersville. And I ended my whole wedding season. I had a wedding in Virginia, and my best friend and I drove down to Kernersville to visit these friends because they're such an important part of my life.
Wow.
And while I'm there, I'm seeing what they're doing, and they had started a church out of their home, and they were helping, these people who are kind of on the fringes of society, right? Like, they're not the most popular people, they're not the most perfect people, but they're loving them and walking through life with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, man, I want to support their ministry, Lord. My business is doing great at this point, so I'm like, how much money do you want me to invest in their ministry? Like, I want to donate, I want to give them something. And I didn't get an answer, and I'm worshiping and praying that morning, and right the morning before we're supposed to leave, and it was like my heart was just ripped out of my chest and slammed back in. And I knew that he wanted me, not just my money. He wanted me there.
Oh, wow.
And so
that was that instant you moved down to North Carolina.
4 months later, I packed up all my things and I moved down to North Carolina.
And you were still in New York at this time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's, oh my God. So to be called somewhere is incredible. And I think it seems like you found a place that you kind of had, maybe not knowing at the time, but you had a community. You had a support system, right? And I think a lot of people go into it and kind of find it later, but to go down there knowing that you had people who were in your corner who could support you, people who, if you had a hard time, you could reach out to, stuff like that. Was there ever a thought before then to leave?
Whenever I had been in the company of those friends, I always wanted to be part of what they were doing. They were very magnetic, and they still are very magnetic people.
Cool.
And especially my friend Mike, he was my camp counselor, and he just had a way of connecting with people and making them feel like they're the only person in the room, and always drawing them, pointing them to Jesus and what Jesus is doing, and loving them and being kind to them no matter who they are, and making you feel important no matter who you are. And so I always felt drawn to be part of what they were doing, but it wasn't until that moment that I felt like the Lord was like, no, you need to do this now, and if you don't do this, you're going to be disobedient. This is,
wow.
This is so important that you need to do this. And so my family didn't understand. My friends kind of understood because, they love Jesus in that way and understood the leading of the Holy Spirit. And
was there a plan, or
No.
did you literally just packed up your things and went?
I was trusting the Lord, let me tell you what. And maybe I should have had more of a plan in hindsight. But God, He's been good. He's been good, and He's provided.
100%.
And I moved in with this family for 3 years, and I helped them with their ministry, and became part of their family. And their kids are like nieces and nephews to me, and it was just a very sweet time. And during that time, I was slowly building my business in the Greensboro, Kernersville, Winston, Salem area, the triad. And
did it feel, real quick, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Was there any level of anxiety?
Oh,
or
I'm sure there was.
but it seems like in that situation, it seems like you were so steadfast on it.
Yeah.
Like you knew in your heart that this is what you were supposed to do, meant to do, right? So was there any anxiety? And then I'll get to my second question.
I'm sure there was some, but there have been a few times in my life, and that being one of them, where it was just, I was just so sure.
Wow.
That, I don't know, God has just done some things in my life where it's just been that moment that I had to go back to school for photography. It was just yep. And even though it was scary and stepping out is hard, that thing in my soul and my spirit was just so sure that was where I needed to be, and if I didn't, it would be detrimental to who I was going to become,
And then the second question was it easier to build a business now that you have your portfolio than it was when you first started?
I wish I could say yes. I wish I could say that I got moved down here and it took off like wildfire, but to be honest, God was in the process of stripping me away from stripping the idol away. This was the beginning of that, because I had let photography become my identity.
It was you and everything
Yeah.
that you
Yes,
did.
100%. And so this blessing that God had given me had turned into a curse in a lot of ways. And like I said, I was burnt out when I moved down, and part of me probably moved down just to start fresh because I was so overwhelmed and I was so busy. But I do know that it was the right thing to do because God has done so many things through it. But it became exponentially harder in a lot of ways because I was a big fish in a small pond, essentially, where I grew up and where I was. And I had this network that just almost kind of fell in my lap because all of my friends were getting married and they were having kids. And it was just like, we're going to hire Mabyn because she's our friend and we know her and we love her. And
Hey, can you take pictures?
Yeah, exactly. And it was very organic.
Yeah.
Whereas down here, I had to put in a lot of effort and I had to go in and like make those connections that I didn't have up in New York. And so I'll be very honest and raw. My business never got as big as it did up there, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
For sure.
And so, but I made some great friends in those 3 years, and then I met my husband and moved to Statesville. We did a lot of prayer and seeking in that, and that's a story in itself.
Well, let's talk about it. One of the greatest things about speaking to people has been how support systems, specifically like spouses,
Yes.
have played an intricate part into all that they do in business, in life, and how, honestly, without some partners, they don't know if they're at where they're at, right? So how impactful has your husband been for you and your business?
So my husband, I still say to this day, marrying him was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life.
Wow.
We met and married very quickly. We met online, and within 6 months we were married.
Did you just know?
Yeah, it was. And I had been dating for a little while, like doing the online dating thing, going on dates, and it just for about a year. And I was like, and I was about to take a break. And he literally was like the last guy to message me. I'm like, if it doesn't work out with this guy, I'm done for a while.
Yeah.
And I was a lot the first date, let me tell you what. But he was the first guy, and all of it was he was content to take things slow. He was content to write long messages to me and just get to know me. And he didn't have any agenda for like, I met a lot of guys who just wanted to date and we were going to be in a relationship right away. And it was like this very fast thing, and that's very Christian relationship-y, like they just wanted to jump in, and I think they wanted a relationship more than they wanted to know me. And
like the thought of a relationship was more important than like getting to know and have that genuine connection.
Yes. And so my husband Daniel was just very content, and we had a lot in common, and our first date was the first time that I actually wanted to see anybody again. And I remember, and it went all day long. We met for lunch and we ended at 9:00 at night, and when things were shutting down, and I just remember, I want to see this guy again. Like,
that's so awesome.
And a month later we knew, and 2 months after that he proposed, and 3 months after that we were married. So
that has got to be one of the craziest stories. First off,
I think it's crazier, but yeah.
First off, meeting online. I mean, I think that's such it's a newer thing, right? But then to get married so quickly and just kind of know that that's your person, it's such a beautiful thing. But you said it gets crazier. How much crazier?
So the family that I moved down with, my friend Mike that I told you about, right around the time we were getting married, he got sick with some unknown illness. We didn't know what it was, but it was like a respiratory thing going on. But he was like, Mabyn, you are gonna, he doesn't love marrying people, but he said, I will marry you and Daniel, and you guys are gonna be the last wedding that I do. And I was like, all right, I'm not mad about that. And the day comes, and we had actually changed our wedding date, because originally I wanted like 8 months to plan, because I'm in the wedding industry, right? I know how long it takes to plan a wedding. And I wanted at least like 8 months to a year to plan. And I'm very thankful for our wedding because we had so many amazing friends come together in the wedding industry to support me. And we probably had a much more expensive wedding than we could have ever afforded because our friends chose to bless us. And it was, I'll be ever so thankful forever and ever to them for that. Because so some things that happened earlier in our the 6 months that we were together that made us go, maybe we need to bump up our wedding a little bit. And so the date that we had for our engagement session, we reached out to our photographer and was like, hey, can you actually shoot our wedding that day? She was like, sure. And then a venue just fell into our laps, and all of our friends magically could make it, and all of our family could magically make it. And it was just like, okay, this is right. This is when we were supposed to do it. And we get married. It's like the most perfect day still in my life. Like I've seen a lot of weddings and I've seen a lot of things go down in my career, and this was truly a very treasured day in my life. And then about a month later, my friend Mike passed away very unexpectedly. And
I'm so sorry to hear that.
so to see how God orchestrated that so that we could still have him marry us, because if we had waited to the original date, he wouldn't have been there to marry us. And it was our first year was trial by fire of marriage. Things like that kept happening. We had a lot of deaths in our family and a lot of crazy stuff. But Daniel has always been very steadfast. He is, I call him the calm to my crazy, right? So
Yeah.
You have the creative dreamer, like, just go and do. Like, I'm very impulsive, ADHD, like, let's go do the thing. And he is the, let's calm, let's plan, let's research. So he's a very good balance to me. We'll be celebrating 10 years of marriage in October.
Hold on. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And then you also have a son.
Yes. So.
How has being a parent, I just recently went through this. My son is 4 months old. How has being a parent changed your life, your perspective, and just kind of everything that you do? Because, I mean, it brings purpose. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that you didn't have purpose before, but it changes your purpose, your perspective. How has being a parent changed your life, not only personally, but in business as well?
Oh, it's changed a lot of things. It definitely changes how you perceive life in general. Like, I heard it said once that having a child is like having a piece of your soul outside of your body walking around. And I was like, I could not pinpoint that better. He is a piece, and he looks like his daddy, but he acts like his mama. So his personality, like how he is, he's very much like me. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing, because I see so much of myself in him, and I'm like, ooh. But he is definitely changed. I've shifted a lot of things in my career for him, because I don't want to miss out on things. I want to be able to be part of what's going on with him. And so that's one of the reasons I went into photography, knowing that one day I would have a family and I could work from home and I could be present with my kids. And but really, so right after I had my son, I started to have a lot of weird symptoms and a lot of craziness going on in my body. And I'd had this career. When you're single and you can build a career, you can spend as much time on it as you want. You know, you're not beholden to anybody. And then we got married, and like, we're still running after our goals together, but you still have a lot of flexibility, right? Yeah. And then when you have children, that flexibility, I mean, to an extent, it doesn't go away, but it shifts, right? Your priority just shifts. And I was spending every weekend shooting weddings, maybe 2-3 days in a weekend. I was doing engagement sessions all the time. Like, I had photo shoots all the time. And the first couple of years of his life, I felt like I was missing stuff, you know? And I was like, and my husband's working during the week, and I'm working on the weekend, and we're like ships passing in the night sometimes. And so that, in combination with some of the health problems I was starting to have, just made me really go, I don't know if weddings are for me anymore. I don't know if that's what God has for me anymore. And to be honest with you, I was burnt out again. Like, I had gotten to a point where it's like life was lifing. And
life be life.
Life be life. And I was just like, gosh, do I even want to be a photographer anymore? Do I even want to run a business anymore? Because it's extremely time consuming, right? And when you have a little at home who needs all of your attention, you're running a business on maybe 2-3 hours a day. If you're lucky, you're running it during nap times. You're running it, late at night when you can. And it becomes just a different animal, and these long, 8 to 12 hour wedding days were doing a number on my body, but they were also like hurt my heart a little bit. I wanted to be home with my family.
Yeah.
And so when was this? So we had the pandemic had hit. So it was probably the year after that. I probably shot more weddings than I had in a long time. And we realized that it just wasn't, because we had this lull right? I couldn't shoot any weddings.
Yeah.
I could just be home. I know the pandemic was really hard for a lot of people, but it was a really beautiful time for our family.
Because for so long you were doing so much, and for that
so
6 months to a year you were kind of just at a standstill.
And we got to spend our weekends together, and I got a taste of what it was like to have a weekend again, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Was
it hard the first couple of weeks? I mean, obviously COVID, it was forced, whatever, but was it weird the first couple weekends to be like, holy crap, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something?
I think it felt weirder the longer it went, because we, as wedding photographer, you would have gaps of a week or two here and there, and but you're in the middle of June and you don't have any weddings, or it was like the whole prime wedding season down here in North Carolina, and it was like,
what am I doing with my life right now?
I'm learning how to sew on my sewing machine, like.
How can I use this to monetize?
I know. That's the way us entrepreneurs just like, every hobby.
Can I monetize this?
I know.
Hold on, wait. How do I monetize that?
Yeah, exactly. I've had to put up boundaries around that, because I would. Like, my brain just goes.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
And even with like AI now, that AI is literally like, I feel like what my brain was doing before I had AI, where I can just put an idea in and it just spits out in a way more organized fashion.
Yes, AI and I are good friends.
Yeah.
It does. It takes out all my crazy thoughts and then it puts it into a concise, like, oh, that's what you're trying to say.
Like the way it just articulates it, like you put it into AI and it just, it's like last night I used it and I was like, I wasn't even thinking of that, but that is such a good point. I was like, it feels like me a little bit,
It's wonderful and scary at the same time. So.
In like 10 years, it's going to be so scary when it knows every piece of information about everything that somebody's put into it. But as a business owner, it kind of is more like a therapeutic thing, because we're going to be rebranding in the next like month or two. It's going to be like Full Scale Lifting Love Network,
awesome.
like a TV network. You have all these different things, because we have this podcast. We're working on a couple other podcasts with people to help create, develop, and really help them build a brand. And working on a bunch of other stuff too. So I'm like, how do we do this? And I put this idea into ChatGPT, and I was like, I don't know what it could be. I don't know what it looks like, but this is kind of what I want to do. And it just spit out like everything I needed, and I was just like, that's why I pay $20 a month for AI.
I know. I've used it a lot. I've used it a lot for copywriting. I use it a lot for planning and helping with design and all sorts of stuff. It's been such a useful tool.
Oh, 1,000%. So now let's flip over full business. I know we talked a little family, a little personal. Was there something? It seemed like you had another thought on your own.
I'm just trying to think. I just trying to make sure that So this has led us up to pretty much where we're at.
So really photography driven, really wedding kind of event photography up until pretty recently.
Yes.
When that change happened, when did the social aspect come? Because it kind of went from like, you still do photography, obviously you still do photo shoots, but you still also have like that. Now you have like a creative blend to it where you're helping empower women, you're helping like with the creative stuff. So like, when does that come into play? And talk a little bit about your business specifically.
Yeah. So, so right around this time, I was loving this this time of COVID, and I went back into weddings, and I had just had my son, and things just didn't feel right anymore.
Yeah.
And I was asking God, like, do I just step away? Do I be a stay-at-home mom? Like, I was in a real place of conflict, because again, photography had been my identity, right? And
it's not just like a one weekend thing. You've been doing this at this point over 10 years?
Yeah. At that point,
that's a long time.
Yeah. And so I'm praying about it. And again, I had a lot of health issues that were coming up during this time too. So I wasn't able to actively pursue a business as much as I would want to.
Yeah.
And it came to a point where I was like, I don't think this is me anymore.
Wow.
And God was showing me more and more, like, I don't want this to be you anymore. Like, this has become so, like, I felt like such a failure at this point too, because I'm not booking as much as I used to. I'm sick, and granted, I mean, COVID did a lot of that for a lot of businesses. Like, everything just kind of fell out. But you know, my body's not doing things the way it used to. I've got a child at home, like all of these things, and I really had to go, okay, Lord, here. Like, I don't want it anymore. I had to get to a place where it was like, I'm ready to walk away from it and just do what you want me to do.
Yeah.
And it was around that time I had been playing with branding photography a little bit right before the pandemic hit, and I just felt like, I'm going to give this one shot. And if this is what God wants me to do, he's going to show me, but I want to do it his way this time, and not my own way, not in my power, but in his power. And, I mean, he's, ooh, my ring, sorry.
I was like, dang, she broke the table. Don't mess with Mabyn. Check.
I mean, it is kind of like an iron knuckle.
It's like a brass knuckle ring.
So I had, lost my ADHD, lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I wanted to do it his way. And so it has been a slow journey, mostly because I physically can't do as much as I used to be able to do. But it has been a much more rewarding journey in a lot of ways. Like, God is really, I really have to rely on him. And I had to get to that place of, I guess, rock bottom in a way, where it was like, I want to give it all to him. I don't want this anymore. I don't want it to be my identity anymore. If I'm going to run a business, I want to run a business in a way that glorifies you and goes back to that, show my people how beautiful they are, right? Yeah. And so I had this leaning towards brand photography. I have played with it a little bit, dipped my toe in the water, and I was like, let's just go and see what happens. And pretty soon, like, I started getting people who were like, yeah, this is great. And I found it used a different side of my brain, whereas like weddings and families are very documentary, and like there's some posing involved and things like that. But it's like you show up and get inspired, whereas brand photography is very strategic. And you do like 90% of the work ahead of time. And this, because these brand photos are meant to help propel your business forward. It's not for, memory's sake. It's like, how can we use this in a world of social media where image is really important, and, showing who you are in a 3-second period of time is crucial, right? Because people will make a decision on a reel or on a photo very, very quickly. You go to a website, and before you even get halfway down the page, you're like, and you've moved on to another website. Isn't
it crazy how much like that instant gratification, or like that, oh my God, what's the word? I just had it. Attention span is so short.
It is very
It's
short,
so crazy. That's why like a blend of content, especially like with the photography and the stuff that you do, is like so crucial to a business that maybe doesn't have the luxury of A, knowing how to use social media, or B, having a social media person. So like for you to come in and be able to be like, hey, like I can help you get some posts, I can help you do this, and you could do it so creative. One of the things I really am, and we were talking off camera, I love how authentic that your content specifically is. And it seems there's such a community around the people and brands that you work with. And I think for somebody out there who needs that help, right, that empowerment, that inspiration of like, man, so this social media world is hard. Don't get me wrong. The social media world is hard. As somebody who has a social media marketing company, it is hard. And there are a lot of businesses that just, the people behind the business don't know how to do it. And that's fine. But when you have someone like you come in, you can help empower them to be able to help people get eyeballs on their product. I think it's just such an important thing you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's been a lot of trial and error, to be honest with you.
What isn't trial and error in life,
well,
you know?
and that's what I tell my clients is it's generally a big experiment. We never
100%.
know, like, we as business owners, like, we see the influencers and we see the people going viral and we're like, oh, that's what we need. But it's not necessarily what you need as a business owner. Like, we as business owners have to approach social media in a very different way because if we're trying to go viral, if we're trying to be an influencer if you're a solopreneur and you're trying to be an influencer, you can make that happen, but you can still convert paying clients from a very small audience base. Our goal is not to necessarily get 5 million views on our reels because those 5 million views aren't necessarily going to turn into orders. They're not going to necessarily turn into clients. And so our goal is to show our expertise and our personality and, like you said, our authenticity, like who we are as a business and like our values, and show that in the online space, because then people who connect with that are going to find you, and you're going to have a whole social media reel of like, this is who I am, this is my expertise, and they're going to trust you. They're going to, the three things we always want to do is like, know, and trust, right? So we start with people liking you, but because you're putting out some fun content, or like they really enjoy your personality, or they're learning something from you. And then they get to know you a little bit because you're putting personal things in there. So, I talk about my health journey a lot on my social media. I talk about my family, and I love to read books. I'm a bit of a nerd. Like, you'll see little touches of who I am as a person in there. Like, I'm about to do my own brand shoot actually on Wednesday. And I'm bringing... I'm obsessed with boba tea, and I'm,
so is my wife. I just want to real quick. She is literally, she could drink it all day, every day.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's like this insane thing. Like, what is it about boba tea? I'm sorry, this is very off topic, but my wife is obsessed with it. I don't know what it is.
Okay, so boba tea, I believe it's Japanese, but it's from Asia, and it's different milk teas is what they call it. So there's different flavors, and you add like a milky base to it, and then the boba are tapioca pearls that are usually sweetened. And so you not only are drinking this delicious drink, but you're getting a little bit of texture in there. And so it's almost like a smoothie meets, I don't know, it's hard to explain it, but it's also Asian influenced flavors, and I'm obsessed with Asian food in general.
Yeah, my wife is literally obsessed with it.
Yeah, so she and I would get along really well.
100%, yeah, 100%.
And we could go get a bowl of ramen and drink our boba tea.
She loves ramen
I
too.
do. I love it.
One of the crazy things, just to go back off the point of social media, is I've been creating content for 4 going on 5 years now, and I've never had like a video go crazy except one. And I put all this effort in, I do all these videos, and I got some that have gotten like 5, 10, 15,000 views. I had one just go ballistic, and it was literally just because I videoed this guy blowing glass and thought it was the coolest thing ever. All of a sudden, bing, 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 bing,
never
bing.
know.
You just don't know what's gonna go viral, and that's why like when people talk to me, they're like, okay, but like I need an ROI, and I'm like, social media marketing and branding is the only area in the world that you can put 1,000% of effort and still get 5 views. Even if you're the best at it, there is no guaranteed ROI. The thought process is the more you post, the better your quality of content, the more views you're going to get. But there's no actuality.
There's no formula to it.
100%.
You can't say if I plug this in and plug this in and it's going to get me this result. Like, that's true. However, there is an ROI into your online presence, because that is where, so I used to think in my wedding business, if I had a website and I had a logo, that was my branding.
Hold on.
Right? Yeah, that's all I needed.
$1 million?
But this is also before the like personal brand has become a very
Massive.
Massive thing in the last 5 years.
Massive.
So you have all of these people who are now, again, influencers who are having these personal brands, but it also has now trickled down to the solopreneur world. So you're no longer just an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, you have a brand around your persona, right? It's not just, because people don't connect with a business necessarily, like unless you're a mega business, like they might connect with Nike or connect with Patagonia or some of these brands, but it's not on a personal level. It's
100%.
like, I want to be keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
But when you are a small business or you're a personal brand, like if you're not putting yourself into your brand at all, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because people connect with people. The viral videos that we see is because there's some kind of connection going on. And I mean, I've never had a viral video and I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, but I'm okay with that because I'm still converting clients that are finding me in the online space and saying, I know, like, and trust Mabyn. I want her to do my brand photos.
And that same formula of like, hey, we can post 1 million times and do all this stuff. That same formula can also equal hundreds of thousands of views of at least like accounts reached. And it's so crazy. It's like ROI is such a big thing. But again, going to your point, like when somebody in the digital age now, when I go and look for a restaurant or I go look for a tire place or the first thing I do is I check their social media, I check their website. Like
We
that,
look for reviews.
like a review, like
Yeah.
that is like the validation of like, okay, if this,
They're legit.
if this business is putting time, money, and effort into social media, into having a website, into all this stuff, that's a business that I want to do business with.
Yeah.
It's not like, and like if I go in the same aspect and I go to someone who doesn't have a social media, it's like, do I really want to go to this sketchy place? I'm like, you know what, let's find another place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because it's so accessible now, right?
100%.
So we're in a place where it's super accessible. That is the norm now. And here, ChatGPT is actually becoming a search engine. So not only, the Google machine has been king for a while, but ChatGPT is creeping up on it.
It's
and
incredible.
I use it a lot of times
100%.
as a search engine.
Yeah.
And so what are we doing to make sure that our brand is, because branding isn't just social media.
No.
Branding isn't just a website and a logo.
No.
Branding is consistency across
Every
your platform,
platform.
right?
Yep.
Every single
I
platform.
love this.
And even branding is like a newsletter and all of these things.
A
And
business card.
A business card.
All these little things.
All these little things. And you want consistency, you want professionalism, but you also want authenticity in these things, because we can smell inauthentic from a mile away. And a lot of people, a lot of small businesses I see putting stuff out there and it feels very stiff and it feels very canned, and it's like people can't relate with that, right? And it's I follow a chiropractor on Instagram, and they're freaking hilarious, and they're always doing these funny little reels to voiceovers, but putting it in their context of chiropractor, and I'm like, that is brilliant. People are going to connect with that. People are going to want to book you because you're freaking funny.
And it doesn't have to be this crazy thing. You don't have to get all these. I had one person come up to me, a potential client, and they were like, well, I want all my content to be super professional. I'm like high quality. I'm like, you're going to pay an arm and a leg for these high quality, short pieces of content when you could, as a brand as a whole, just rebrand yourself more professionally and have better content. And I think it's a misconception of I need it to be high quality or I need it to post a lot, right? Just it's just this weird balance of you can have both. You can have a blend of really high quality content, but still posting a lot and still be authentic and personable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we're kind of coming out of a phase or an era, I would say, of where social media especially had to be very curated. And we're moving away from that now, especially with the younger generations coming into social media. They don't care about it being curated. The millennial Instagram, right? They care more about authentic and who you are. And so it's actually better to have a blend. And I always say your website is your handshake, right? That is your first impression. So yes, you want a professional website. You want things to look clean and collected and together. That is where you're putting your professional video, right? That is where you show your space and you show the professional side of you.
Do you do websites as well? Like go into real quick, what all do you do?
So right now I'm primarily I almost said wedding photography. I'm primarily
just
not
factory
anymore.
reset,
No,
wedding
reset.
photographer.
I am not anymore. Not that anymore.
You do it for so long and your brain is just like, what do you
Yeah.
do? I do weddings.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I
Yeah.
have camera.
So I primarily do branding photography for small businesses and solopreneurs.
Awesome.
So I'll work with them and create a plan for what photos are actually going to move the needle forward for their business. And it's a mix of photos and video. So it'll be professional video, but also like B-roll video. So it'll be just snippets of them working on their laptop or doing behind the scenes of whatever they're doing, so they can use that, and it creates content for both website and social media. And that's like the
awesome.
primary arc. I have been getting into more coaching lately, and I've been coaching businesses and solopreneurs on like how they can bring everything together. So creating a website with them. I don't call myself a web designer yet. I'm starting to dip my toe into it, so I'm not going to say that yet. But I have great people that I recommend.
What a fascinating world.
Yeah.
Websites are insane.
They are.
And I think it's an awesome thing. It's just I love what you do. I don't know how else to put that, because I feel like there's a lot of people who need your services. And they probably don't even know it.
They don't even know. Yeah.
Like, so you don't, you have like monthly packages too, or is it more like I'm just trying to figure out how it works, or you just kind of go in for, hey, you need a month's worth of content, give me 4, 5, 6 hours.
So I've got several different packages depending on what your needs are. So like some people just need like some clean headshots, right? Like if you're a realtor, if you need a new headshot for LinkedIn, that kind of thing, I've got packages for that, so people can just come in and like 45 minutes, you have some nice headshots and things like that. And then
Hold up, you have a studio?
I work out of a studio here in Hickory. It's not my personal studio, but I do work out of a studio.
I didn't know. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
But continue, I'm sorry.
And,
That's so awesome.
So come on into the studio. We do a few headshots, that kind of thing. I also go on location quite a bit. So, and then the next step up would be branding packages, and those are much more in depth. So we're not just headshots are part of it, but we're doing behind the scenes. We're doing what I call story vignettes. So we have like 2 or 3 different story vignettes on like things that you want to be sharing, because we always talk about like personal aspects of our life, but also business aspects that we want to be sharing with our clients and our audience, and so they get to know you a little bit better. So, so we're gonna do 3 or 4 different story arcs, and depending on how much you need, and then I also have a package along with the B-roll video that we do, and so that's gonna get you anywhere from, like you said, a month to 6 months worth of content.
Damn.
And then for those companies who do like they need a lot of turnover, I have done custom collections where we do like a monthly membership, and it's like, okay, I come in, quarterly, and I will do your photo and video for you for your social media.
That's awesome.
And then, like I said, I'm starting to branch into coaching. I've got 2 clients right now that I'm helping them kind of like, they're not familiar with web design, and they're not familiar with social media, and they're like, I know I need to be doing this thing, but how do I do that thing, and how do I make a brand, quote unquote. And so we go through the very basics and all the way up to like helping them get to a place where they have a content plan and a marketing strategy moving forward. So.
I think that's just so incredible. I think it's so needed. And as someone who also I do social media. Social media is my bread and butter, and marketing. So I help businesses with brand and all that. And I just think it's so important to learn social, even if you're not good at it. I mean, you don't have to be. You don't have to be great. You just gotta post.
Yeah, and it's giving a lot of what I do is confidence coaching on like, how do I show up in a way that doesn't feel icky, it doesn't feel salesy, it feels organic to me. How do I even like do the things on the Instagram? Because a lot of people are like, how do I post a reel? How do I make a story? What's the difference between the two? How do I add music? How do I add a link? And a lot of that is I'm walking people through it, and I love doing that, because you take them from I don't know what I'm doing to a place where it feels like, okay, I can take this and move forward myself. Like I'm not hand holding you forever. It's just enough to get you to where you need to be. And it's different for every business too. So I'm not doing the same thing for every business. There's a framework that I work around to make sure that we hit certain touch points and we make sure that, you know what you're doing. But ultimately it's different for every business.
So last couple questions as we wrap up. Seriously, I do appreciate your time so much.
No problem.
Incredible person. If you haven't, make sure you check her out. We're just going to shout out her socials in a minute. But how much pride do you take in being a business owner? I think it's something that is, it's kind of going back to like your photography thing. When you were like your photographer, that title kind of took over your life. Yeah. What has being an entrepreneur meant to you, and how much pride do you have in that?
So I think I probably am a little scared of the word pride because I don't want to have pride. And I think this time around, there's a certain excellence I want to bring to the table, and I think that's important. I do everything that I do, I want to do for his glory and his honor, and with that comes a level of excellence. And so I am treating every client that I come in contact with as you were created in the image of God, right? So for me, I approach this business now as a way of service. I want to be a servant. Like, I'm the middleman. It's not about me. Like, I'm here to help you succeed in your dreams and your goals. Yeah. And I think that helps me feel a lot more grounded and a lot more connected to Christ if it's not about me, right? It's never about me. I'm just here to serve, and I'm just here to help. And that's what I tell a lot of people too when they're like, what do I post? I don't know what to post. I get in my own head so much and I just don't know what to post. Think about that one person that you can serve. What is it that you do? What is the question you can answer? What is that one thing that you can do to serve your audience? And that just makes it so much easier. Like, 100%. I just think of, okay, what is a question that my best friend who's creating a brand has? And then I talk to her. and I'm a complete nerd and goofball. So like, I'd have no problem making fun of myself. You don't have to do that. You don't have to make yourself a fool on camera like I do. But but you can be genuine, and you can have a moment where it's like, hey, I know you're really struggling with this. What I do can help you and serve you and make that thing easier, and let me share how I do that. And that's all social media as a business owner should be, to be honest. So.
I love it. Last two questions. Do you have any regrets up to this point? Anything that you would do differently at all?
I don't think so. I think every moment in my journey, whether it's been a good decision or a bad decision, and whether it's been out of my own selfish ambition or it's been the Lord's leading, has made me who I am today. And, I have redefined what success is. I've redefined what my business is, and whether or not it's what the conventional world says it is, I know I'm doing it for the right reasons, and it fills my soul when I get to do it. So.
And then this one is just genuine curiosity, and then we're going to get to the last question. How much would it take to get you to do another wedding as a photographer?
It won't take me too much. I don't mind doing like a wedding here and there, because I still love the premise of weddings, and I love like the motion and the flow of the day and the pressure. There's things about it that I still love. I'm actually shooting one wedding this year.
Hold up.
Yeah.
That's an exclusive right here.
Just one. I'm not going to be filling up my calendar with weddings, that's for sure.
So now booking weddings all year.
Full stop.
I still love that moment of you just reverting back to wedding photography.
Because you had me talking about weddings so much today. I don't usually do it anymore. So.
I think it's such a big part of your story. It is. We've talked to a couple other photographers and videographers on the pod, and it seems like weddings are just such a great start, because you get so much. Like, there's just so much that's happening, so much content to be made. You learn, you make mistakes, you learn, you get better. Weddings are a perfect example of kind of like a test, right? That trial by fire where you're just, I did my first wedding last year in October. I did video. And then you talk about 5 hours worth of content they got to break down to a 15, 20-minute video. And you're just, I was literally like this on my computer. I was like, I don't know how people do it. But the photographer's just over there. I'm like, I want that job.
I was going to say, photographers have it a little bit way easier when it comes to that. Going through video content takes forever.
Oh, goodness.
So with, sorting through images has kind of become like almost a reflex at this point. When you're going through it, you know what to look for, and you can do it really, really quickly. There's AI now to help you with it.
I was going to say,
better.
Do you have a software for it?
Yeah.
I need to get that. After the pod, we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of photography stuff, and I'm just like...
Yes. There's
and
two that are really good. Yeah.
I'm sitting there just going through them. I'm like, that's a good one.
It has helped a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah. It cuts down a lot of your work time, and I'm a big proponent now because I didn't used to outsource. I'm like, if I can outsource, I'm going to outsource. Not everything, because you do need to still have your hands in the business, but there are certain things that I love editing. I'm one of the few photographers who probably really enjoy it, because I know a lot who don't.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's the completion of my vision, so I've always held really tightly to it, but it's very, very time consuming.
It is.
And so I've gotten to a point now where it's like, is my time worth, am I really going to get my money's worth if I'm going to sit here and call through thousands of images, or am I going to better spend
Just
my
need to
time
back off? Yeah,
doing other things in my business. So you had asked me earlier about advice, and that's one piece of advice for young photographers I would give, because if you're just getting into the industry, especially weddings, you're shooting a huge volume, and it feels really hard to give that away to somebody else or AI, to do for you, because it's your baby, it's your thing. You are your photography, and I would say the ROI on that is not going to even out eventually. So you got to come to terms with where to invest your money so you can make more money. So.
And then I know that you said that was to young photographers.
Yeah.
Real quick shout out your social media, and then jump into the best piece of advice you give someone watching.
Yeah, you can find me at Mabyn Ludke Photography on pretty much everything. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And then my website is mabyn.com, mabyn.com. Really
That's such
easy.
a cool name.
I know. I got in on that one. Let me tell
Super
you.
early.
I'm thankful. I'm never giving it away. So yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
And then what's the best piece of advice that you can give to someone watching this right now?
All of the stuff that you go through is not for nothing. All of the hard, all of the crazy, because running a business is really freaking hard. And you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have times in your life that you're not sure you should still be doing this thing. But if you've been called to it, God's going to use every bit of it to propel you forward to where He wants you to be.
Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. All her social media and the links are going to be in the description below, so make sure you go shout out and just support her however you can. I truly just love what you're doing, and your content has been awesome. It's incredible what you're doing. You're empowering people to use skills and give them the ability to be able to showcase their business digitally, and it's awesome. We need more people like you. Thank you so much for your time. One more time for... Mabyn. How do you say it? That's not your actual last name anymore, but it's Mabyn Ludke. Mabyn Ludke Photography. Go follow her. All social media platforms in the links in the description below. One more time, Lake Hickory Pub Marina, where Lake and Life meet. Shout out to them for allowing us to film here. And lastly, hit that subscribe button here. This was another Lifting Love podcast, and until next time, most importantly, lift love, crush hate. We out.